I'm Paul Larson, and it's time to shine the spotlight on an Adirondack story, a special one about racial inequality in the 1950s. It's a story that really wasn't being told by anyone until very recently. Now this structure behind me is helping bring the once forgotten affair out of the shadows for the public to see. It housed one person named Fulton Fryar when he was a young man from North Carolina, gifted with a beautiful operatic voice. He came to Siegel Music Colony in Schroon Lake, New York on a full scholarship arranged by the colony director. As Fulton journeyed to the North Country, people at Siegel were wrapping up construction on this building addition. In modern times, we view this building as a sad reminder of the past, and it is, but many say we should be reminded, and we should be grateful that this part of Adirondack history was saved just in time from demolition. Operas performed by young singers at Siegel Music Colony in Schroon Lake, New York, convey their dramatic stories loudly. But this humble building addition sat at Siegel and hid its story quietly, a compelling one that remained silent for nearly 6 decades. So you could not room with the other students?
That's right. The day I got here, the closet was being completed. They were doing the finishing touches on the closet, and they let me know that that was my house, that I would be in while I was here.
This 12 by 6 foot addition to Siegel's former laundry facility was scheduled for demolition in the fall of 2017 because the building was about to topple over. But instead of getting demolished, the addition will now be protected as a historically significant room. 76-year-old Fulton Fryar had slept in it for many weeks in his late teens. This began in 1957, after he'd been invited to sing and study in the Siegel Summer Training Program by colony director John Siegel.
It wasn't so much that I had technical skills, but God had blessed me with a voice that was above and beyond many.
Siegel had heard about Fryar's vocal abilities from a colleague who'd raved about the teen's voice in Fryar's native North Carolina.
I guess he accepted what she was telling him, so he allowed me to come up in the summer of 1957. And that was my first encounter with Mr. John Siegel. He was my teacher when I was here. Told me one thing that I had never heard before. He said, I cannot teach you how to sing. He said, but I can teach you how not to sing. Yeah, because the voice was there. And he was going to teach me how not to do things that would damage it.
Like the other singers in training, Fryar landed roles in productions staged at Siegel during the 2 summers he spent there.
The training that you were actually receiving at that time was training that professionals do on the stage. And they would teach you things like how to receive applause and how to come on the stage and how to leave it and how to come back for the encore. Those professional things that they was putting in us. So it wasn't just the productions.
Although Fryar shared the stage with other young singers, he stayed in separate sleeping quarters, created just for him, the first African-American singer at the music colony. The other singers, Caucasian and many from the segregated South, bunked together in rustic dormitories. Siegel Director of Productions Richard Kagi says the colony itself was never segregated, but racial attitudes in the United States made people extra cautious when it came to housing the first singer of color on campus.
John was concerned that many of his students were from the southern part of the United States. And in 1957, just exactly how that reaction would happen was hard to say. And not wanting to cause any problems with it, they decided to build Fulton a bedroom somewhere separately. And it made the most sense to put it there because there was a bathroom facility nearby.
I was the only person on grounds that was in a separate room. But I didn't take it as an insult.
I asked him, were you bitter about this? And he said, no, I wasn't bitter at all. I came from North Carolina. It was more intense down there. Apartness or segregation was more intense down there. And that it was normal to me, he said. And he didn't mind it at all.
Coming from a segregated South, it didn't faze me. You know, I've just come out of North Carolina where there's tobacco picking and cotton picking and things of that nature that I would have been doing if I were not here. But God made it available to me. And I was grateful to be here.
The 17-year-old Fryar named his room the Closet.
This is a closet in the closet.
But that doesn't mean the other singers had fancier sleeping areas.
Trust me when I tell you, his room was nicer than mine when I came as a singer.
Singers in the dorms, instead of studying music at night, would sometimes goof around with it.
98 bottles of beer on the wall, 98 bottles of beer.
You know, the 99 bottles of beer on the wall that they would sing and all that kind of stuff, and it's down to one bottle of beer. That had no bearing on me. But I was here to gain something. And when I got here and saw all of the professional people that was here, who was here really to help you, and I was trying to be helped. And it didn't matter to me what they were doing over there.
The main concern Fryar had about his separate room? The walls were too plain.
I thought it needed to be decorated, and so I decorated it with my lettering brushes. I had worked with a sign painter as a kid, and I learned how to do some artwork, and that's what I did to brighten it up.
And you put some specific symbols in there.
A Bible. I put some leaves growing up on either side of a little cabinet. If I had a bad day and I walk into the closet, those things were things that would enlighten me to come out of the dark into the light. See, that's what God would do for us. He'd take you out of darkness into His marvelous light. These tassels are still in good shape. Go inside. I guess it never rained in here. I don't see where it did.
Fryar's skills with a paintbrush led to specialized training at the colony.
They decided that maybe I would help with the scenery on doing the productions. And I did the scenery for several things that we done here. I did the brushwork. And that's something that I can show my children. I can show them this, and they can be proud of their dad.
After Fryar's 2 summers at Siegel, the population of singers there became more diverse. Separate sleeping quarters for anyone was deemed unnecessary. Fryar's closet became a storage space, and later, a forgotten space, with most new singers on the campus not knowing its significance. In 2017, the closet was set for demolition because the laundry building attached to it was considered unsafe. Around this time, retired opera singer Jonathan Green discovered the space.
I was visiting my friend here, the artistic director, and he said, "You like photography? I think that this building is up your alley." And indeed it was. I was photographing it and saying, this is a very moving, compelling little room. I was told it was condemned, and I felt there was an urgency to get it saved somehow.
Green sent his photos to architectural historians and museum curators to interest them in preserving the room.
I think that little building has a very big story to tell of a man who had to live in it apart from the white participants, but at the same time had the spirit and the positive nature to decorate it. He wanted it to be pretty, he said, inside, and people need to know it.
With encouragement from the organization Adirondack Architectural Heritage, curators at the Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake, decided they wanted to put the once-forgotten space on display for the public to see.
I think Siegel Music Colony did an amazing thing for Fulton Fryar, as he will tell you himself. but you still see where the country was when he was here in 1957 and 1958. The idea that you were building this little space off the laundry with a bathroom around the corner. It's very different from the way students here find things today.
They said it will be their first African American exhibit.
Before the closet was removed from its original spot, Green tracked down Fulton Fryar. The 76-year-old man was living in New Jersey.
I was astonished when I was sent photographs of this place that I know that somebody had just recently taken them. I could see the wear and tear that the weather had done to the door. And I said, somebody talking about Siegel? That's 60 years ago. I was just astonished and amazed that the building was still standing there, because it had one purpose, was to be my home when I was here. That's the only purpose that building was there for.
Now the closet, moved to a new home, has a completely different purpose: to move the public who sees it. What do you want the public to learn from your experience?
I'd like for them to know that we have come a long way in race relations, but we haven't reached the peak. We haven't seen what Dr. King saw when he looked and went to the mountaintop. It's not there yet. You don't change things real quick that have been set in place. The nation itself needs to start to address race relations. We're scared of it. And we don't come and sit at the table and talk about it because we're fearful of this thing called race relations in the United States of America. And I believe that this story may have an impact on the world. I hope so, because we should not be doing things like that. Not today, but we still have problems.
My grandson, I told him this story, and you don't know how an 11-year-old is going to absorb a story like this. And he said, it's really unfair that he had to live apart from the white participants. And then it just confirmed what a teaching tool this is.
Shortly after his time at Siegel Music Colony, Fryar abandoned the idea of singing as a career due to a change in his voice. But he adds lessons in professionalism from Siegel helped him all through his life. He views his sleeping quarters turned museum exhibit with pride.
I'm astounded, so grateful that they would take this time and this effort to see to it that this thing got in other people's heads. It needs to get in our heads. It won't reach the heart until it comes through the mind. And I wanted to, I'm just grateful that this is happening for that reason.
Thanks to the efforts of Jonathan Green and others, you may now see Fulton Fryar's closet up close at the Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake. And for more stories on the arts and about people who shine brightly, head to mountainlake.org/spotlight.
Spotlight is supported by the Glenn and Carol Pearsall Adirondack Foundation, dedicated to improving the quality of life for year-round residents of the Adirondack Park.